when we look back in time and the history books are written, they will say, how did China colonise Great Britain? How is it no longer a sovereign state? And the finger will be pointed to Starmer.
What are Starmer's principles?
He doesn't have any.
What does it? What?
No, he doesn't have any.
What does he care about?
Starmer's principles are this: I want to be the leader of the country. He said my happiest moment was getting into number 10, and that has proved to be because he doesn't have a line of leadership. He doesn't know what he believes in.
Hello and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi. Today, joined by the wonderful Tory MP, Esther McVey. Esther, you look sensational today, dressed for success.
Well, I can say I've taken a page out of your book. Do you see this sort of suit thing?
Yeah, like it.
I've got this waistcoat. I thought, yes.
Yeah.
I nearly put in
A pocket square.
And I thought, no, that would be wrong. I would be stealing your, USP, your little emblem there. So I didn't.
Well, thank you very
But
much.
I'm glad you noticed. I don't think Phil did, but I'm glad you noticed.
Well, Phil will notice once he watches today's episode, of course. Right, well, Esther, we all know what it means when you're on the show, our Westminster Whisperer. What's been going on this week?
Can I tell you, this week is going to be explosive in politics. This now is the unravelling of Starmer and Starmer's government. The fact that he tried to, or who did try to get rid of this China spy case, it will unravel this government, and it's revealing at the heart of this Labour government a rotten core. And whilst you're right, people are saying, oh, well, what actually went on? People were spying on the country. Aren't always people spying? No, it's why was the case dropped? Who allowed it to be dropped? What was said and what wasn't? And it is the cover-up that always collapses, isn't it? It's the cover-up that is the ruining of somebody and something, and this is what's happening here. So what we've got is Starmer always saying, it wasn't me, I didn't know, pointing in the other direction. He's chucking under the bus the DPP. He's chucking under the bus the Deputy National Security Advisor, and he is saying, I know nothing. He's been in Parliament, people have been asking him questions, and I'm being honest now, people are saying, again, is he misrepresenting a situation in government? And he's now had to, which has happened today, he's got to reveal those witness statements, and that's what he's done. Okay. And this, people say, hasn't closed the subject, this has opened it altogether. So we've got the witness statements coming forward, and they have said that China is the biggest state-based threat to the UK economy. Wow. Right, that was the first one. And then the very last statement, we've got the same thing again. The China espionage threatens the UK's economic prosperity, its resilience, its integrity, and our democratic institution. But inserted next is how important it is that we need to have this commitment to pursuing a positive relationship. And everybody's saying, how has this come about? How has this come into the witness statement that has dropped the case? And this is where the upset has come forward. And this is where, unheard of before, that people are coming out, people from the intelligence service, people from MI5, MI6, the DPP, are all coming out saying this shouldn't have happened. And this is where Starmer is on the ropes. So it is this information, this witness statement, and on top of that, there was a meeting, supposedly a secret meeting, held between a couple of people, Jonathan Powell, Sir Ollie Robbins, and the Cabinet Secretary. One that did happen, didn't happen, and now he's revealed it had happened. And this, like I said, it's always the cover-up that reveals you and ruins you. And I'm afraid it's this cover-up that Starmer has consistently been doing that now is unravelling before our very eyes.
So what are people saying could be the reason for Starmer dropping, or who have somebody dropping the investigation? Like, why would that be a case of, why would we want to not find out if people are spying for China?
And that's what they're saying. Why and who? And it's come down to now, really, he's selling the country out for possible investment into the country. But what it's saying is we are no longer a sovereign state. We can be bullied by a foreign government. It's supposedly down to a trade deal that Labour wants, Starmer wants, they so desperately want, as they've ruined the economy. And this is what they're doing. And I will tell you, this is how it'll look. When we look back in time and the history books are written, they will say, how did China colonise Great Britain? How is it no longer a sovereign state? And the finger will be pointed to Starmer. They will say that they collapsed and were bullied, were allowed to be bullied by the Chinese government to cover up this. And this trade agreement that they're wanting probably won't be a fair trade agreement. It'll probably be flooding the British market with cheap Chinese goods and pushing up the cost for us ultimately. So this is what it's all about.
How is that any different to our relationship with the USA? I know we call it the special relationship, but essentially you could argue the USA bullies us and they dictate to us and we try and do things to get more trade from them. Isn't this just the same, but we're giving it to the Chinese instead now?
So one's a communist state and we're a democratic country. The other one is our ally. One is an ally, and the other has never been seen and viewed as a threat, that we haven't been spied on, that it could take out our most, all our intellectual property, our, as I said, threaten our democratic resilience, our government's resilience. And this is the problem. Before, why, who, how, and I'm afraid all fingers are pointing to Starmer. And this is what people say, he will end up going over this. And the question is as well, and I will say that Starmer has polluted politics. He has brought in people he should never have brought in. They've had a political appointment as a national security advisor. This is Jonathan Powell. Why did that happen? Supposedly, when he has meetings, he can't talk about the substance, but they'll talk about other things. No, he's planted somebody in there to do his bidding. We sort of saw that with Mandelson. Why did Mandelson get the job? Again, a political appointment. It could have stayed with Karen Pierce, who was doing a wonderful job at the time. No, he put in somebody to do his bidding there. Again, a political appointment. And this is why I say this rotten government, polluting politics, disingenuous at its very core, and the public are saying what's going on. And it is this spy saga that's actually going to unveil it. I know, as I said, they were hoping it would be a dry and dusty story. Nobody'd look into it, but I'm afraid they are.
So, last question on this for you. Who is Starmer going to chuck under the bus for this one?
Probably Jonathan Powell, who he brought in to be, the national security advisor. It will be him. Also, his deputy seems to be taking the blame. I mean, who's ever heard the likes that the actual advisor doesn't know what's going on, can't talk about the substance, but his deputy is, and that's also who they're chucking under a bus. And also Starmer saying, I didn't know. He's tried to chuck the CPS under the bus for not pursuing this the case, but they're saying, no, this is an issue of government policy and importance, and the Prime Minister should know. And as I said, he's always pointed to other people. But on this instance, I think he's going to be skewered. I think this week is going to be a defining week of his leadership. And I'm afraid too many people now are being emboldened to come out and say Starmer is letting the country down. Too many people now feeling emboldened that they can do that.
Okay, let's talk about Rachel Reeves. Yesterday, she basically admitted she's going to have to up taxes and there's nothing she can do about it. What are people in the cafeterias of Westminster saying about this?
Well, I'd say we've got dumb and dumber. I'd say running, but I'd say ruining the country. And this is part of, two duds who are overseeing the economic collapse of the country. Now, remember, Rachel Reeves' budget, her first one, is the biggest tax-raising budget on record.
Yeah.
So she went in getting all this money. It was so bad, if you remember, she had to come back to the House in the spring to say, eek, I've run out of money again, and I'm going to come back for more money. And again, only she and Starmer seems to be the only two people in the country don't realise they've put the economy into a doom loop, and she's going to come back for another possible £30 billion more. I mean, this is also what links into China. They're so desperate for money. And who are they going to push? They say, well, it could well be a wealth tax. But actually, everybody's suffering. You saw this week unemployment up. It's gone up every month they have been in government. You're seeing inflation's going to go up. You see young people have been hit the hardest. So these two are, I'm afraid, I think we have to say adios to the pair of them.
But we need to raise money, it seems. So how would you or the Tories sort the economy out?
Well, at the moment, you have to cut spending. So you might say, why did Rachel Reeves raise all that tax in the first place? And the big question mark was what? Well, it was to pay off the trade unions, and it was to go down this mad, green sort of driven agenda, setting up GB Energy, putting more money into Ed Miliband's. It's more or less religious now how he's pursuing this net zero policy. In fact, he's just fallen out with Trump again. They want to do a global net zero tax. So we'd say, stop all of that. Stop the spend. If anything, it's the public sector that's got to go on the Ozempic jabs. We've got to slim that right down, but they're not. They're exploding it out, and that is a problem.
Okay. This book I've heard called The Fraud. It's all about Starmer and his lies, or alleged lies, and how he got into power. What are people in Westminster saying about that?
Well, this book actually comes from sort of left-wing sort of Corbynista group who knew Starmer really well. And I actually think they knew Starmer a lot better than we did. And they called him the fraud, how he basically lied to the public, how he lied to the membership to get elected. And I think that name is true, that fraud. I mean, I call him McCavity's cat. He's never there, is he? It's always somebody else's fault. And I think, well, if it's somebody else's fault and you're meant to be the leader of the country, well, you're not much of a leader if you don't know what's going on. And this book starts to unravel that. And more the sinister goings on. So this book also revealed that Morgan McSweeney, that key advisor to Starmer, and where did all that money come from? £740,000 that put him in power. Who is supporting him? Where did that come from? Who's dictating what Starmer does? And this is the shadowy bit now of Starmer's rule. What does he believe in? Who is he? 1 minute he's supporting Palestine, the next minute he was key in the peace negotiations, which he wasn't, and he supports Israel. So he always believes in something else and supporting something else. And while he can get away with that for a little amount of time, backing everybody, being everything, Mr. Flip-Flop, Mr. Oscillator, Mr. I believe in everything and nothing, it can't carry on, and this book reveals that.
So actually, touching on his principles, what are Starmer's principles?
He doesn't have any.
What does it?
No, he doesn't have any.
What does he care about?
Starmer's principles are this: I want to be the leader of the country. He said my happiest moment was getting into number 10, and that has proved to be because he doesn't have a line of leadership. He doesn't know what he believes in. That's why it was Margaret Thatcher would have celebrated being 100 years old on Monday, and so many people are now saying, whatever you thought of her, actually we need a leader like Margaret Thatcher, who said, these are my principles, this is what I stand for: small state, extending sort of enterprise, everybody can succeed, social mobility. These are my views, this is what I'm going to do. And whether you loved her or hated her, everybody knew where she was going, and that's what she delivered. And people are saying, we need somebody with principles now. We don't have. And the reason the country is floundering is because Keir Starmer has no principles, no guiding light other than him and power and being in number 10. And that's why the country is literally off course.
Well, we have that leader in Kemi Badenoch, don't we? She has made what she stands for, her morals clear, and she sticks by them.
And that is why people are saying, we get it now. We get what you stand for, Kemi. You've made it clear. Prosperity of the individual, prosperity of the nation, standing up for our country. And that's why we're getting behind you. And this, again, people will say, Starmer is an internationalist, and he's never believed in the nation state. He's an international lawyer. And that's why they're saying, and China, it's like he doesn't care about Britain and the sovereignty of Britain. He is saying, I'm happy to sell it to China so I succeed for a little bit of inward investment. And if you can be bullied like that by another country, you are not the leader of this country. If you can try and dodge responsibility and push everybody under the bus, you are not a leader. And I'm glad that this is now being revealed, the cover-up, and trust me, it is the cover-up that will get Starmer out of number 10.
Well, you've just named one of his principles. We found one. Internationalist. That is what he stands for.
But it's an internationalist, but selling us down the river.
Grooming gang victims have been let down by delays in implementing measures to protect them from sexual abuse. Professor Alex Jay, who led the 7-year independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, said she was disappointed and frustrated that only 2 of her 20 recommendations had been implemented. She claimed that the delays risked inflicting further emotional damage on victims who had lost faith in institutions and the confidence in the ability of the state to address the scandals. Esther, this was meant to have been done with urgency, and yet here we are months down the line.
See, this is another thing, isn't it? Starmer kicking the can down the road. He never, ever wanted to have the national inquiry, this rape gang inquiry. We know that he called it a far-right conspiracy, didn't it? Other people in his cabinet said it was, a dog whistle to the far right, etc. And now it's proved to be he didn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't believe in it, and therefore he isn't doing it. So it seems that they can't find a chairperson.
Yeah.
It seems that they can't set the remit. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, he's a lawyer. They can find people to defend terrorists. They can find people to stop people who've broken into our country illegally to keep them in this country. Yet you cannot find somebody to chair what has to be one of the most important inquiries of our time, of something that is a stain on our history, that white working class girls were abused predominantly by Pakistani people, and nobody looked into it. And it seems everybody was involved and nobody looked into it. They looked the other way, and he can't find somebody who wants to chair that, who would make their name on the back of it, make their reputation on the back of it. Absolute nonsense. And this, I'm afraid, is getting the people of this country's blood boiling. They want answers. They want to know how so many young, vulnerable girls, many in care, were systematically abused. And I'm working with some of these girls, and can I tell you, it wasn't rapes what some of these girls had. It was torture. What happened to these girls was torture on an industrial scale, and we need to get to the bottom of it. And Starmer won't, because I'm afraid the finger points to Labour councils, it points to Labour sort of politicians, and he won't do it because he's looking again to keep him in number 10, and that's what he's doing. Again, it's another cover-up. So you want to know Starmer's principles, he's Mr. Cover-up.
Yeah, why is it Labour? Well, you explained why Labour don't want to do it. Because even Sadiq Khan, when he was offered an independent investigation into grooming gangs in London, grooming gangs cannot just be a case of, it's just Rochdale, it's just these areas. In a city as big as London, there are surely some examples of grooming gangs in the capital. But Sadiq Khan also refused to have an independent investigation done into this.
Yeah, no, Starmer's a weak man. And he doesn't want to lose any MPs, and he's kowtowing basically to the Muslim vote, because West Streeting could lose the seat. There's lots of other MPs who could lose the seat. Sadiq Khan's vote is on the back of it, and that is why they're not doing it. They are looking the other way for political expediency, which is a disgrace. Like I said, they are clinging onto power, but I have to say, what for? You're doing no good by the British people here. Why are you clinging on to power other than for power itself? Because you want to have all the luxuries of being in power. Yeah. And that's why they're already known as hypocrites. They've got the cars, they're taking sort of freebies, they're going to the events. But no, when you're talking about deal with the issues that matter to the public, they're not doing it. But it's all about he doesn't want to lose the Muslim vote, and he's frightened about that. But people are saying this issue is now so big. They need to know, was there any police involved? They need to know, was there any social workers involved? They need to know what went on, who looked the other way. And worse, is it still happening, and is it even bigger now than it was? It started off in some areas, and people now are saying it's bigger. And that's why we need this national inquiry immediately.
Match of the Day has shared hundreds of thousands of viewers since Gary Lineker was axed by the BBC. Average TV ratings for the show have plunged by more than 10% so far this season compared to the same period a year ago, falling from 2.68 million to 2.39 million as viewers flood to the new online highlights. A show watched live by up to 3 million people on Saturday nights during Lineker's reign, even went close to dipping below 2 million on one occasion. So, Esther, were the BBC wrong? Everyone cussed out Gary Lineker. Everyone said he shouldn't be saying this, shouldn't be saying that, shouldn't be tweeting this. He's got to go. Well, the viewers apparently liked him enough that now he's gone. Everyone's like, oh, right, I'm not
I
gonna
think
watch it.
everybody's just leaving the BBC full stop. And if you drew that in comparison to all the other shows, they are losing people at a rate of knots. And you also have to ask, who did they replace Gary with? Were those people that, football fans wanted to watch? I don't know. I don't watch the show. But I will say the BBC is pretty much becoming more and more irrelevant as a station, even though it gets about £4 billion of taxpayers' money. I mean, I say to people, do you watch the BBC? And people say, no, I don't turn it now to a news source. No, I don't turn to it to watch entertainment. I don't.
What about
turn
radio?
To it.
BBC radio and local radio stations, those are useful.
Well, I'll say my dad will listen to Radio 5.
Mm-hmm.
I will, when I can bear it, listen to Radio 4. It's so miserable now. I have to tell you, it's so miserable. I do need to have a bit of a uplifting experience before I go out to work. So I think that is its problem. It's old-fashioned. I'd say it's blinkered. I'd say it is definitely left-leaning. It has its own view. It's part of the metropolitan bubble. And that's why people are turning away, whether it's to YouTube, whether it's to podcasts. I think that's what people are thinking now. I can actually get a bit more information from a podcast. I can get more from social media. I can look something up on the internet. And I'm afraid the BBC just seems a bit old-fashioned.
Think we should scrap the licence fee?
I think it's time it went. I think it's time, actually, and I think that would liberate the BBC. It could actually start selling its products. Why does something like EastEnders have to be shown on the BBC? It could be a great British product and sold to other stations. So I think there are other things it could do. I personally would put more money into the world services without a shadow of a doubt. That was part of Britain's soft power. People did listen to it. Great independent journalism. And I think if we could do that and do it wonderfully, I think that would be really, really important. But all the other stations, that they've got, not really.
My big gripe with BBC is I feel, like you said about it being in the metropolitan elite, I feel it's run by middle class and upper middle class people. I don't think there's working class people in the top of the BBC.
Yeah, it's all group think. And that's what people say. It's just one certain set of people with one view on life. And they don't actually want to talk about other stories. And the public has cottoned on to that now. There are other places for them to go. So GB News has become the top news station for the last 3 months, beating sort of BBC News and Sky, because people want to hear other opinions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Esther, you come on this show and you talk about the news. Yesterday, you were making the news. You went viral, I'm told. You and Lee Anderson, what have you two been up to? The terrible twosome.
Right, so I'm known as one of the chairs on the panel of chairs. So I will chair debates in Westminster Hall and various other things. And MPs put in for a debate. This was a 90-minute debate led by Lee Anderson on knife crime. Mm-hmm. So he comes, he speaks for about 10 minutes, but it's 90 minutes and everybody else can get involved and other people put in to speak. Cross-party, anybody could do it. Anyway, he's setting up what his debate is about, and he's taking interventions. But it is for him to decide if he takes any more interventions. People not agreeing with them, chipping in.
Okay.
Right? That is not for me, the chair, to intervene. That is for him. So we've taken a lot of interventions, and particularly from this Labour MP, who then Lee came back. He said, I'm not taking any more interventions. I'm going to follow through with my debate. I want to say some more. I said, fine. Anyway, this Labour MP was having none of it. And he was chunnering and standing up. And then he said, point of order, Chair. To which I said, well, I'll listen to it if it is a point of order, but it probably isn't. Anyway, it wasn't. It was known as a point of debate, which means you've got 90 minutes. You can debate it. You can talk about it. Anyway, he wasn't having any of it. He chunnered. And I tell you, not in my room and to my debate. I said, no, I'm afraid, would you like to leave? I.e.,
you kicked him out.
Get your temper under control. Anyway, he was chunnering and muttering and yes, and I said, I think you better leave. And so he left.
You ejected him.
Yes.
Like the headmistress.
Would you like to leave the Westminster Hall?
When we're done, yeah.
I'd actually ask you now to leave. Thank you.
Wow, brilliant. Okay.
Thank you. And it wasn't a point of order.
It was a point
of debate. There are at least 10 people who'd like to speak today, and you do have your chance to speak if you had, but I'm afraid your temper and your attitude doesn't actually belong in Westminster Hall.
Fine. Well, how did the debate end?
The debate, it just carries on, and everybody has to say. So everybody could say, I agree with this, I don't, this is what it's about. But then I found out there is something known as PDA, pathological demand avoidance. And that is when you can't tell somebody what to do, children what to do. McFly's drummer's wife said, my children suffered from this. I can't sort of control them. I can't tell them what to do. I'm telling you, we're not having any PDA in my chamber in Westminster Hall when I'm in charge.
PDA was public display of affection. That's what I thought it was. You've taught me something there.
Yeah, well, when you have children, what you're going to do...
I've got a kid, I've got a boy, yeah, I've got a child. Yeah,
right. Are you strong on discipline, or do you let him do what he wants to do? Does your child have PDA? Can you not tell him what to do? Or are you in to rule the roost?
I am strong on discipline, and I'm strong with the causes of discipline, okay?
That's what we need to hear. I've heard those words before. That's what we need to hear. Anyway, so that's important because discipline is important. Structure's important.
Absolutely.
The house runs on a timetable, on structure, how things are done. And for anybody to think it can be a bun fight, so nothing is heard, nothing is recorded. No, it's not.
Just out of interest, you chair these debates. Mm-hmm. Which party has the least disciplined people?
I think it's if emotions run high. And when emotions run high...
Answer the question, politician.
No, I think at the moment...
Just say Labour. That's all I want you to say.
No, it isn't true. Look, at the moment, it is very prickly at the moment, and there's definitely a ding-dong going on between Labour and Reform without a shadow of a doubt, which you've seen that because Farage lives rent-free in Starmer's head, doesn't he? It doesn't matter what Starmer's talking about, whether it's at his conference, whether it's on the floor of the House, whatever it is, he always refers to Farage. So at the moment, that's prickly in the Hall and in the House.
All right. Well, Esther McVey, thank you as always, Westminster Whisperer. The caffeine has worn off. That is all we've got time for. Thank you for watching the Daily Expresso and join us tomorrow where James, the straight talker Walker, and I answer the best questions, letters and comments from you lovely lot. Bye-bye.